When we talk about rock artists who really should retire, one name keeps coming up again and again: David Lee Roth. Not because of his legacy, and that part is untouchable, but because watching him perform today raises an uncomfortable question. At what point does defying age stop being brave and start being painful?
You really got me now. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing. Girl, you really got me now.
If you want to see where things truly started to unravel, we need to go back to October 2020. I'll show you some more clips, really embarrassing, but first take a step back.
You're not an ass for my mission. This is my chance to fly. This start on me.
David Lee Roth was never a technically strong singer, and that matters more now than ever. Even during Van Halen's peak, his vocals relied on attitude rather than accuracy. He slid around melodies, avoided sustained notes, and used swagger to get through songs. Back then, it worked. Eddie Van Halen's guitar dominated everything. The band moved at breakneck speed, and Roth's chaos felt intentional. Missed notes became personality. It came from momentum, but once that momentum fades, there's nothing underneath to hold the songs together, and that's exactly what we're hearing now, even more pronounced.
Well, the kid is into losing sleep, and he don't come home for half a week. You know, it's more than just an aggravation.
So, to understand how bad it's become, we need to go back to October 2020, during Roth's Las Vegas residency at the House of Blues. This was supposed to be a farewell. Instead, it felt like a warning. Night after night, he struggled to finish verses, slipping into spoken lines and off-time shouts while backing singers quietly carried the melodies. People noticed immediately. Clips spread fast, and the reaction wasn't excitement. It was concern.
No. You know I don't mess up, I'll mess up.
Then came May 2025 and the M3 Rock Festival in Maryland. This was his first major live return in years, and the footage shocked people. During songs like Panama and Ain't Talking About Love, Roth missed entrances, skipped lyrics, and reshaped phrasing mid-song just to survive. At several points, he stopped singing entirely and let the crowd take over. This wasn't a bad night. It wasn't technical trouble. It was the same struggle across multiple songs and multiple angles. The band kept playing. Roth looked lost. The energy was still there. The voice wasn't. And once you see that contrast, it's impossible to unsee.
I'm famous and leave. What's possible? Bringing that you down.
What followed made things worse. The reaction shifted. This stopped being a debate about taste and turned into disbelief. Fan-shot clips flooded social media, and the comments all sounded the same. This is painful. He's completely lost. Why is nobody stopping this? Even longtime Van Halen fans admitted they couldn't get through a full song without wincing. The dominant emotion wasn't anger, it was embarrassment. Watching someone who once owned the stage now chase his own songs felt wrong. Yes, there were defenders. There always are. But the defenses changed. Instead of praise, people started offering excuses. At least he's having fun. It's about the vibe. It's not as bad as people say. When the conversation stops being about performance and starts being about justification, the damage is already done. What makes this harder?
David Lee Roth may have conquered rock and roll, but are his fans ready to see the legend struggle on stage? The energy is fading, the voice is cracking, and the question everyone's asking, should he retire right now? David Lee Roth has always been the embodiment of rock star excess, the flamboyant frontman who could light up a stage with nothing more than his grin, a pair of tight pants, and an attitude that could only be described as pure chaos. From the early Van Halen days, when the world first witnessed his energetic flips and charismatic stage presence, Roth became synonymous with the very definition of rock and roll. Yet as fans scroll through clips of his recent performances, a nagging question begins to arise in their minds. Is it time for David Lee Roth to retire? This is not a critique born out of disdain for the man who revolutionized rock music, but a reflection of the undeniable truth that even the greatest icons are mortal, and time eventually imposes limits on even the most vibrant performers. Watching Roth today, there is a noticeable shift in his energy compared to the days when Van Halen albums like 1984 and Women and Children First dominated the charts. Back then, every note he sang seemed effortless, every jump off the stage a display of physical prowess that made fans hold their breath. Now audiences see a performer who struggles to maintain the stamina and vocal clarity that once defined him. It's a subtle difference at first, almost imperceptible, but for longtime fans, it's enough to raise concern. When you juxtapose Roth's current performances with his younger self, the contrast is stark. The voice that once soared effortlessly over the thunderous riffs of Eddie Van Halen's guitar now occasionally falters, strained and inconsistent. The flips and acrobatics that were once hallmarks of his live shows have been replaced with simpler gestures, a necessary adaptation to the realities of aging, but one that leaves the show lacking some of the spectacle that drew millions to arenas worldwide. Even die-hard fans cannot ignore the reality that time has changed Roth's abilities. The issue is compounded when one considers the fact that rock music itself has evolved. Today's audiences have been conditioned to expect both incredible musicianship and top-tier production. Watching a legend like Roth perform without the polish and energy of his prime can create cognitive dissonance. It's not that Roth has lost all his talent, far from it. His charisma remains, and his understanding of stagecraft is unparalleled. But physical limitations and the natural aging of the voice cannot be ignored. Celebrities who have performed alongside Roth, like Sammy Hagar during reunion tours, have expressed admiration for his dedication, but even they acknowledge the toll that decades of performing take on a human body. The comparison is inevitable. When other musicians of his era, like Mick Jagger and Paul McCartney, pace themselves or limit their tours, the results are evident in both their performances and their longevity. Roth, in contrast, seems determined to defy these natural limits, a decision that, while admirable in spirit, has consequences in execution. Fans who attended his most recent concerts report mixed experiences. Some revel in nostalgia, thrilled to see the frontman who defined an era. Others, however, leave with disappointment, noting inconsistencies in song delivery, tired stage energy, and a lack of the magic that once made every Van Halen performance an event. Social media amplifies these discussions, with clips from shows being dissected for vocal strain or missed choreography. YouTube comments and Twitter threads debate whether Roth should continue performing, with passionate opinions on both sides. For many, the argument for retirement isn't about disrespect, it's about legacy. Legends are immortalized not by continuing endlessly, but by knowing when to bow out gracefully, leaving audiences with memories that sparkle rather than fade. Consider the impact on Roth's legacy if performances continued to decline. The man who once captivated the world with Jump and Panama risks diminishing the brilliance of his career by trying to extend it beyond its natural conclusion. The paradox is clear. Roth wants to entertain, to prove that he can still command a stage, yet every faltering note or missed step chips away at the legend he built. There is also the human side to consider. Touring is grueling even for the most fit performers, and at Roth's age, the physical demands of travel, late-night shows, and high-energy performances can be punishing. Health experts who have followed aging rock stars caution that continuing at such intensity without modification is risky. The question of retirement is not new in the music world. Many iconic performers, including David Bowie and Prince, faced the difficult choice of whether to continue performing at peak capacity or step back to preserve their artistic ability and health. Roth's situation is unique because his persona has always been defined by excess and vitality. To step back would require an acknowledgement of change, something notoriously difficult for an artist whose identity is inseparable from performance. Yet there is a growing recognition that a new chapter could be just as fulfilling. Retirement from touring does not mean retirement from music. Roth could focus on studio work, collaborations, or mentoring the next generation of rock artists. These avenues allow him to remain relevant and creatively active without the physical strain of the stage. Imagine a series of carefully curated performances, rare appearances that celebrate his career rather than attempt to replicate the impossible. Such an approach could elevate his legacy rather than risk diminishing it. Fans of Roths are diverse, spanning generations who grew up listening to Van Halen on cassette tapes to younger fans discovering classics via streaming platforms. This cross-generational admiration creates a responsibility to honor the past while acknowledging present limitations. Continuing to perform at a level below the audience's expectations risks alienating fans who hold the original Roth in such high esteem. There is also the emotional component. Performing is not just a job, it's a deeply personal connection between artist and audience. Roth's energy and charisma have always fueled that connection, but when the physical ability wanes, the emotional strain increases. The weight of expectation can become a burden, and even a small stumble on stage can feel magnified under the scrutiny of devoted fans and critics alike. Recent interviews with Roth reveal his awareness of these challenges. He acknowledges that age has changed him, that energy levels fluctuate, and performing is not as effortless as it once was. Yet his determination to continue is rooted in a desire to give back to fans, to maintain relevance, and perhaps to prove that he can still defy the passage of time. This determination is admirable, but it also raises a critical discussion point. Sometimes the bravest act is knowing when to step aside, to preserve the legend intact, and allow fans to remember the artist at his peak. The debate extends beyond Roth himself. Music critics, journalists, and fellow musicians weigh in, exploring themes of artistry, aging, and legacy. Articles in Rolling Stone and Billboard dissect every recent performance, analyzing vocals, stage presence, and audience reaction. Fans post reaction videos on TikTok, highlighting both moments of brilliance and areas where Roth's age is apparent. The online discourse creates a collective sense of urgency. The consensus seems to be that while Roth remains a vital figure in rock history, the time to step back may be closer than ever. Roth's persona has always been larger than life. His sense of humor, outrageous outfits, and confident swagger make him unforgettable. These qualities have endured even as physical limitations become more visible. However, charisma alone cannot fully compensate for vocal strain, decreased stamina, or missed choreography. The combination of these factors fuels the argument that retirement from live performances might be the wisest choice, ensuring that the legacy remains untarnished while still allowing Roth to engage with music in meaningful ways. The Van Halen legacy further complicates the picture. Eddie Van Halen's genius guitar work set an unparalleled standard, and Roth's voice and stage presence were the perfect complement. The synergy of the band was electrifying, a perfect storm of talent and showmanship. Today, without Eddie, Roth carries the full weight of that legacy, and the stakes of live performance are higher. Fans expect not only nostalgia, but excellence, and the challenge of meeting those expectations at an advanced age cannot be overstated. There is also a business element. Concert tours, merchandise, and publicity generate substantial revenue, incentivizing continued performance. Yet financial considerations cannot replace artistic integrity. Roth must weigh personal gain against the risk of diminishing his legendary status. The choice is not merely professional, it is deeply personal and tied to self-image, legacy, and respect for the craft. Looking at other legendary performers provides a roadmap. Artists like Bruce Springsteen have adapted tours to be less physically demanding, and Paul McCartney has scaled performances to balance energy with sustainability. These examples demonstrate that with careful planning, aging performers can continue to engage audiences without risking artistic decline.
Roth has the opportunity to craft a similar path.
The conversation about David Lee Roth's potential retirement continues. The voices of fans, critics, and fellow musicians create a chorus that is impossible to ignore. Social media platforms are abuzz with reactions from those who have followed his career for decades. Some Twitter users post clips of Roth's iconic stage dives and high kicks from the 1980s, contrasting them with recent performances where the energy seems diminished. YouTube reaction videos analyze his vocals measure by measure, pointing out moments of brilliance but also instances where the strain of age is evident. Even celebrities who have shared the stage with Roth cannot help but weigh in. Sammy Hagar, who famously replaced Roth in Van Halen, has praised Roth's enduring charisma, yet he admits that keeping up the high-octane performances of the past is an increasingly difficult task. Musicians like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, who understand the physical and mental demands of performing at a high level, note that Roth's commitment is commendable, but question whether continuing without adjustment might harm his legacy. The conversation naturally extends to fans who attended recent shows. Many express excitement and gratitude, thrilled to witness a living legend perform. However, there are those who leave disappointed, noting inconsistencies in vocal performance, missed timing, and an overall lack of the theatrical spectacle that Roth once delivered effortlessly. This division highlights the dilemma faced by aging performers. The desire to continue entertaining must be balanced with the need to preserve the artistry that made them legendary in the first place. Roth's insistence on maintaining a rigorous touring schedule raises additional concerns. The physical toll of performing cannot be underestimated. Even for athletes in their prime, rigorous schedules demand careful management of energy, nutrition, and recovery. For a performer in his late 60s, these demands are exponentially more challenging. Interviews with Roth reveal that he is fully aware of the toll, yet his determination to keep performing is driven by a combination of passion, identity, and the expectation of fans. There's an emotional component to this as well. For Roth, performing is not simply about music, it is a form of expression, a connection with audiences that is deeply personal. Yet when the body no longer fully cooperates with the mind, the emotional weight of each performance grows heavier. Every strained note or missed gesture becomes amplified, and the pressure to deliver a show worthy of the Roth name intensifies.